AITA for telling my wife's affair partner about their affair. I, Mark, 37M, have been married to Sarah, 37F, for 11 years, and we've been together for 16. We have 3 kids, Liam, 14M, Noah, 9M, and Sky, 3F. We own a modest 2-story house in the suburbs, a place we've poured our hearts and savings into. Our relationship, to put it mildly, has been a tumultuous roller coaster. I freely admit I haven't been the partner Sarah deserved for much of our marriage. I made mistakes, particularly early on, including infidelity that, despite my attempts at amends, clearly left deep, unhealed wounds. 5 years ago, I swore off cheating, and I genuinely believed I was working to be a better husband. However, my efforts were often overshadowed by my emotional unavailability and a general lack of engagement in our shared life. Sarah, who had always been vibrant and passionate, began to withdraw, becoming distant and almost resigned. 6 months ago, Sarah reconnected with an old family friend, Daniel. He reached out after his brother, Michael, passed away. Sarah, always compassionate, offered her condolences and support. Given the emotional void in our own relationship, she found a confidant in Daniel. They talked for hours, sharing memories and feelings, and a connection blossomed. I was oblivious, buried in my work as a construction manager, and blind to the subtle changes in her behavior. I attributed her distance to stress and fatigue. 2 weeks ago, Sarah's simmering resentment boiled over. She sat me down at the kitchen table, the kids asleep upstairs, and looked at me with a coldness I'd never seen before. "Mark," she said, her voice flat, "I'm not happy. I haven't been for months. I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. "A divorce? Sarah, what's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I just can't do this anymore," she replied, avoiding my gaze. "I'm not in love with you. Is there someone else?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. She hesitated, then lied, "No, there's no one else." But her eyes betrayed her. After a moment of painful silence, she broke down, tears streaming down her face. "It's Daniel," she confessed. "I'm in love with him. We slept together last week." The revelation was devastating. Sarah had always been faithful, and the fact that she had crossed this line with someone else confirmed the depth of her unhappiness. I knew Daniel from family gatherings. He lived several states away in California and had a wife, Emily, and 2 young children. Consumed by a mix of anger, betrayal, and a twisted sense of justice, I felt Emily deserved to know. I found her contact information and, in a series of frantic messages, told her everything. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Emily kicked Daniel out, ending their relationship. Daniel, in turn, cut off all contact with Sarah. The truth emerged. Daniel had never intended to leave his wife. He had preyed on Sarah's vulnerability, feeding her fantasies of a life together, only to abandon her when confronted. Sarah is now heartbroken, devastated by Daniel's betrayal, and furious with me. She blames me for ruining her chance at happiness, even though that happiness was built on lies. She refuses to speak to me, her anger a palpable barrier between us. My friends are divided. Some say I did the right thing, that Emily deserved to know. Others say I should have stayed out of it, that I only made things worse. AITA for telling Daniel's wife about the affair? Update, 7 months later. The months following Sarah's confession were a blur of pain and legal paperwork. I finally did what she asked and filed for divorce. It was a brutal process, emotionally draining and financially taxing. But I clung to the sliver of hope that eventually things would get better. We settled on 50-50 custody of Liam, Noah, and Sky. It was hard, especially with Sky, who still needed so much of her mom and dad. The constant back and forth was exhausting, but I focused on being present for my kids, making sure they felt loved and secure despite the chaos. The first few months were a dark time. I felt lost, betrayed, and deeply alone. I started going to the gym, not just to look better, but to release the pent-up anger and sadness. The physical exertion became a necessary outlet. I also started therapy, something I should have done years ago. My therapist, Dr. Anya Sharma, helped me unpack the years of emotional baggage I'd been carrying and the patterns of behavior that had contributed to the breakdown of my marriage. It was painful confronting my own flaws, but it was also incredibly liberating. Meanwhile, Sarah's situation had deteriorated. Daniel, the affair partner, had turned toxic. He badmouthed her to mutual acquaintances, painting her as the villain in their failed romance. It was a cruel twist of the knife, adding insult to injury. Sarah, once so vibrant, looked gaunt and weary. The heartbreak and public humiliation had taken their toll. I found myself feeling a strange mix of pity and resentment. Pity for the pain she was going through, and resentment for the fact that she had caused so much pain herself. I still cared about her, as the mother of my children, but the romantic love was gone, replaced by a cold, hard sense of detachment. As I began to heal, I started to notice small changes in myself. I laughed more easily, I felt more grounded, and I even started to feel a flicker of hope for the future. I focused on my kids, my job, and my own well-being. I rebuilt my friendships and began to reconnect with my own family. One evening, at a local bookstore, I met someone. Her name was Lena. She was intelligent, funny, and had a warmth that drew me in. We talked for hours about books, movies, and life. There was no pressure, no drama, just a genuine connection. Then, one rainy afternoon, Sarah called. Her voice was different, softer, almost pleading. She wanted to talk. We met at a quiet cafe. "Mark," she began, her eyes filled with tears, "I made a terrible mistake. I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. Daniel, he wasn't who I thought he was. I was vulnerable, and he took advantage of me." She went on to explain how Daniel had turned on her, how he had twisted the narrative, and how alone she felt. "I miss us, Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "I miss our family. I miss you." I looked at her, and I saw the pain, the regret, but I also saw the woman who had broken my heart. "Sarah," I said gently, "I understand that you're hurting, but we can't go back. We both hurt each other, and we're different people now. We're co-parents, and we need to focus on our kids. That's our priority." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and acceptance. She nodded slowly. "I understand," she said. I had to try." We finished our coffee in silence, a quiet acknowledgement of the chasm that now separated us. As I walked away, I felt a sense of closure, a quiet sense of peace. My life was far from perfect, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally on the right path.